Hey guys, tonight we're gently tiptoeing into one of history's most uncomfortable guest rooms, the hidden, awkward, deeply inconvenient world of prostitutes during World War II. Not the glamorous movie montage version, not the smoky jazz club with perfect lighting. I mean the real thing. Ration cards, blackout curtains, moral panic, and the constant background hum of air raid sirens. So before we all emotionally spiral, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy this kind of slow, historically accurate chaos. Drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Statistically, it's late, you're tired, and you should have gone to bed an hour ago. Now dim the lights, turn on a fan, get comfortable, and maybe stretch out like you finally paid off your mortgage. Tonight, we're asking the big questions. What was it like to do one of the world's oldest jobs during one of the world's newest nightmares? How do you navigate morality when the entire planet is on fire? Who's watching you and who's pretending not to? How do you survive when everyone needs you, no one respects you, and the government suddenly has very strong opinions about your health? And now, congratulations. You've just woken up in the early 1940s. There's a war on, coffee tastes like sadness, and someone in a uniform is already telling you what to do. Let's begin. You wake up to the low, distant thump of artillery, which is not your alarm clock, but might as well be. The room is cold, the walls are thin, and outside the world is rearranging itself through explosions. This is not a cinematic war with swelling music. This is a logistical nightmare where even surviving the morning requires paperwork, luck, and pretending you didn't hear that siren 5 minutes ago. You lie still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, listening. Is that bombing closer than yesterday, or are you just more tired now? Hard to say. Your bed is narrow, the mattress thin and lumpy, and the blanket feels like it lost a fight sometime in 1938 and never recovered. You consider getting up, then reconsider, because warmth is now a rare luxury, like privacy or optimism. Eventually, you sit up. The floor is cold enough to feel personal. Somewhere nearby, someone is already coughing in a way that suggests they will not be stopping anytime soon. Outside, boots move past the building. Soldiers, probably, or the police, or someone officially important enough that you don't want to be asking questions. You wash your face with water that is aggressively cold and faintly suspicious. It smells like pipes and regret. Soap is used sparingly because soap is valuable now. Everything is valuable now. You dry your hands on a towel that has been doing this job for far too long and quietly deserves a medal. Getting dressed takes more thought than it should. Clothes must be clean enough to pass inspection, but worn enough not to stand out. Too nice looks suspicious. Too shabby looks desperate. Now you aim for the middle ground, functional invisibility. It's like dressing for a job interview where the interviewer might also arrest you. Hunger arrives early. You check what's left of your food supply, which is mostly empty space and hope. Breakfast is minimal, maybe a piece of bread if you're lucky. Maybe nothing if today is one of those days. Coffee exists only in theory now. What you drink instead tastes like burnt grain and disappointment, but it's warm, and warmth counts. As you eat, you listen again. Sirens haven't started yet, which feels less like relief and more like a delay. You know the routine. If they sound, you grab your coat, your papers, and whatever dignity you can carry, and head for shelter. If they don't, you still keep one ear open, because the city has developed a habit of surprise. Now comes the mental checklist. Papers first, identification, permits, proof that you are allowed to exist where you are standing. You go over them carefully, because being awake is one thing, but being legally awake is another matter entirely. Misplace one document, and your day takes a sharp turn into official unpleasantness. Stepping outside, the air smells like smoke and damp stone. Buildings stand at odd angles now, like they're tired of holding themselves upright. People move quickly, eyes forward, all pretending they're just heading to work. Like this is a normal Tuesday, and not a global catastrophe. You walk with purpose, even if you don't fully feel it. Purpose is protective. Purpose says you belong here. You pass a woman sweeping rubble like it's dust, a man patching a window that will probably not survive the week, a child who looks far too calm about all of this. Everyone has adapted in their own way. Yours is to keep moving. By the time the sirens finally wail, they almost feel familiar, annoying even, like a neighbor who won't stop knocking. You sigh, adjust your coat, and prepare to do it all again, because this is morning now. This is normal. And somehow, against all logic, you are still here. You can't make this up. Before you even think about working, there's bureaucracy, forms, inspections, registrations, the kind of administrative enthusiasm that only governments at war can muster. Your job is illegal, then tolerated, then regulated, then condemned again depending on the week. It's like trying to run a business when the rules are written in pencil during an earthquake. You start the day by locating your papers, which are scattered across the room in places you swear you checked yesterday. Identification first, then permits, then the permit that proves the other permit is still valid. You line them up carefully, smoothing the creases, because a folded corner can apparently signal moral decay to the wrong official. Every document smells faintly of damp ink and fear. Each one represents a conversation you didn't want to have with someone who enjoyed having it far too much. Names, dates, stamps, so many stamps. The government loves stamps. Stamps make everything feel official, even when no one involved really knows what they're doing. You head out to wherever inspections are happening this week. It might be a clinic, it might be a police office, it might be a room above a bakery that smells aggressively like bread, which somehow makes everything worse. You wait in line with others like you, all pretending not to notice each other. Eye contact is risky. Friendship is optional. Compliance is mandatory. When it's your turn, someone behind a desk flips through your paperwork with exaggerated slowness. They sigh. They frown. They tap a stamp against the table like they are considering its emotional impact. You stand there quietly, hands folded, performing the ancient art of looking cooperative without looking desperate. Questions are asked. Some are medical, some are personal. Some are clearly designed to remind you who has power today. You answer carefully, truthfully enough to avoid trouble, vaguely enough to avoid consequences. It's a balancing act worthy of a circus, except the audience is armed. Then comes the inspection. It is clinical, cold, and entirely devoid of romance, which feels ironic given the context. This isn't about your well-being so much as the well-being of the state. You are not a person right now. You are a potential problem to be managed. Once approved, assuming today is an approval day, you receive another piece of paper. This one says, you may continue existing in this specific way for a limited amount of time. Congratulations. Frame it. Treasure it. Do not lose it. Losing it would be inconvenient in ways that involve shouting. Of course, tomorrow the rules might change. A new order comes down. A new official takes over. Suddenly your paperwork is outdated, insufficient, or morally offensive. You learn this the fun way, which is being told after you've already done something wrong. You adapt. You always do. You learn which offices are strict and which are lazy, which clerks accept bribes and which prefer flattery, which days to avoid uniforms entirely. It's like navigating customer service, except the return policy involves jail. At some point, you realize the paperwork never really ends. It just accumulates. You carry it with you everywhere, tucked into bags, hidden in coats, memorized just in case. You dream about stamps. You wake up wondering if you renewed something you didn't know existed, and yet you comply. Because compliance is survival. Because paperwork, absurd as it is, offers a strange kind of protection. It's flimsy and temporary and unreliable, but it's something. A thin paper shield between you and chaos. By the time you're done for the day, you're exhausted, and you haven't even started working yet. Romance, as it turns out, is mostly waiting rooms and rubber stamps. History doesn't always mention that part. You really can't make this up. Let's talk about the clients. Because suddenly, everyone is wearing a uniform, and every uniform comes with its own rules, dangers, and misunderstandings. Some are barely adults, some are traumatized, some are just lonely and very far from home. You are expected to provide comfort while pretending not to notice that the world outside is actively collapsing. The first thing you learn is that uniforms erase individuality while somehow amplifying expectations. A uniform means authority, vulnerability, entitlement, fear, often all at once. You don't ask questions about rank unless it's necessary, and you never assume kindness or cruelty based on insignia alone. You read posture instead, tone, the way someone avoids eye contact or can't stop making it. Some clients arrive stiff and formal, boots still dusty, hands shaking just enough to notice. They speak politely, like they're ordering tea, even though their eyes look exhausted. These are the ones who apologize too much for the war, for the mess, for being there at all. You nod, you listen, and you don't ask where they're headed next. Others are loud, too loud. They joke, brag, laugh in bursts that don't quite land. It's a performance, and you recognize it immediately because you perform too. Their uniform gives them permission to forget tomorrow for a moment, and they take full advantage of that permission. You let the jokes pass. You keep things calm. Calm is safer. Then there are the young ones. So young it feels like a clerical error. Their uniforms don't quite fit. Sleeves too long, confidence borrowed and badly worn. They try to act older, tougher. Like this is all part of becoming an adult. You don't comment on their age. Everyone pretends not to notice. It's easier that way. Language becomes another obstacle. Different accents, different countries, different rules you're expected to magically know. A smile works in most places. Silence works everywhere. You learn a handful of phrases in multiple languages, mostly variations of reassurance. Not promises, just reassurance. Payment is handled quickly, quietly. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's good. Cigarettes are currency now. Soap, chocolate if you're very lucky. Means you don't judge the method. You assess the risk. Everything is a trade-off. What you never forget is that uniforms attract attention. Neighbors notice. Authorities notice. The wrong uniform at the wrong time can turn a quiet evening into a problem with paperwork and shouting. You learn which nights to be selective, which doors not to open, which signals mean you should suddenly not be home. Emotionally, it's a strange balance. You are expected to be warm without being attached, present without being involved, comforting without being memorable. It's like customer service for the soul, except the complaints are existential. Sometimes someone talks about home, about a farm, a shop, a street that may or may not still exist. You listen because listening costs nothing and sometimes buys you safety. You nod at the right moments. You offer neutral sounds of understanding. You do not say you'll remember them. History is doing enough remembering already. When they leave, they straighten their uniforms, and reassemble themselves, and step back into the war. You tidy the room, smooth the sheets, and open a window if you can. The air needs changing. So do you. By the end of the day, the uniforms blur together. Different colors, same tension. Different flags, same tired eyes. The war passes through your room in fragments, never staying long, always leaving something behind. You don't make speeches about it. You don't reflect too deeply. Reflection is a luxury. Survival is practical. And tomorrow the uniforms will change again. Now it's time for medical inspections, which are about as relaxing as they sound. Governments are deeply concerned about disease, but only in the most invasive, least compassionate way possible. You are inspected, recorded, and monitored, all in the name of national security. Romance has officially left the building. The notice arrives without ceremony. A date, a location, instructions written in a tone that suggests you should already be grateful. You prepare the night before, laying out your documents again, because medical compliance now comes with paperwork accessories. Forgetting an appointment is not an option. Missing one is how you become a problem. You arrive early because arriving late invites questions, and questions invite attention. The waiting room is quiet in a heavy, uncomfortable way. Its chairs scrape softly against the floor. Someone coughs. Someone else stares very hard at the wall, as if the wall might offer guidance or forgiveness. When your name is called, it's not really your name. It's the name on your papers, the official version of you. You follow instructions, coat off, bag here, stand there. The process is efficient, impersonal, and deeply uninterested in how you feel about any of it. The examination itself is brisk and clinical. This is not about care. This is about control. Notes are taken, boxes are checked. You are told what you are, medically speaking, as if this information belongs more to the state than to you. Privacy is treated like an outdated concept, something that existed before the war and is now considered optional. You learn quickly not to flinch, not to react. Reacting looks suspicious, but calm compliance moves things along faster. You count cracks in the ceiling. You think about literally anything else. The weather. A song you half remember. The idea of sleeping in tomorrow, which is wildly optimistic but comforting. Once it's over, you are stamped, signed, and approved, or not. Approval means another short window of permitted existence. Disapproval means forced treatment, isolation, or worse. The rules vary by country, city, even by the mood of whoever is holding the clipboard. Some inspections are frequent, too frequent. You start measuring time in appointments rather than days. Weeks become a blur of forms and follow-ups. Your body feels less like your own and more like shared property with strict maintenance requirements. There is also the quiet threat underneath it all. If disease spreads, you will be blamed. Not the soldiers passing through, not the conditions. Responsibility flows in one direction. Accountability does not. You hear rumors while waiting. Someone taken away for weeks. Someone barred from working overnight. Someone who disappeared entirely. You don't ask questions. Asking questions does not improve outcomes. Afterward, you step back into the street, feeling strangely lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because you passed. Heavier because you know you'll be back. The air outside feels almost kind by comparison. You take a deep breath and remind yourself that breathing freely is still allowed today. You wash your hands again when you get home, not because they're dirty, but because it gives you something to do that feels normal. You scrub a little too long. The water runs cold. You stop before it hurts. The government calls this protection, public health, moral responsibility. You call it another reminder that the war has opinions about your body and very few about your humanity. And still, you adapt, you schedule, you comply, you survive. Because paranoia may be loud, but you are quieter, steadier, and very good at enduring. You can't make this up, but you don't need to. You're living it. It's hard to feel glamorous when food is scarce. You count ration coupons like precious artifacts, stretching meals into sad little performances of optimism. Butter is a memory. Sugar is a rumor. And somehow, you're still expected to look presentable while running on cabbage and nerves. You start each day by checking your ration card, even though you already know exactly how little is left. The card is soft at the edges now, folded and unfolded so many times it feels like fabric. Each square represents a promise the government made and then heavily edited. Meat, bread, fats, technically available, practically mythical. Shopping becomes a slow, strategic exercise. You queue early because arriving late means empty shelves and a lecture from someone who has already decided this is your fault. The line smells like damp coats and quiet resentment. No one talks much. Conversation wastes energy, and energy is in short supply. When you finally reach the counter, you hand over your coupons like you're negotiating a hostage release. The shopkeeper squints and counts a size and hands you a portion that looks apologetic. You thank them anyway. Gratitude is another survival skill. Back home, you plan meals with military precision. Thin soup, thinner soup, soup again, but this time you call it stew for morale. Cabbage appears in most dishes, regardless of intention. Potatoes are celebrated. On rare, glorious days, there is something fried, barely, but it feels like a holiday. You learn to eat slowly, not for enjoyment, but to convince your stomach that something meaningful is happening. Hunger becomes a constant background hum, like distant artillery. You notice it most at night, when everything is quiet and your body remembers it has needs. Despite all this, appearances matter. You are expected to look healthy, cheerful even. You powder your face to hide the hollowness. You adjust your clothes to suggest fullness where there is none. It's like dressing a mannequin made of exhaustion. Sometimes clients bring food instead of money. A cigarette wrapped carefully. A bar of chocolate passed discreetly, like contraband happiness. These moments feel unreal. You ration the ration, breaking it into pieces so small they feel symbolic. You savor every bite with the seriousness of a religious ritual. There are bad days, days when hunger sharpens your temper, makes everything feel personal. The sound of someone chewing too loudly becomes intolerable. You retreat inward, conserving patience like calories. And then there are the creative days, when you invent recipes no one should be proud of, when you convince yourself that boiled vegetables are comforting, when you laugh quietly at the absurdity of it all, because laughter, at least, does not require coupons. Food shortages also mean rumors. Someone knows a place. Someone heard about extra supplies. Someone is always about to get lucky. You learn which rumors are real and which are just hunger talking. Mostly it's hunger talking. Your body adapts because bodies are stubborn. You grow lighter, sharper, more fragile. You bruise easily. You get tired faster. You keep going anyway because stopping doesn't come with a meal plan. At night, you lie down and imagine food from before the war. Bread with actual substance, coffee that tastes like coffee, meals eaten without counting. The memories are vivid and slightly cruel. By morning, you're back at it, counting coupons, boiling cabbage, performing optimism, because glamour was never really the point. Survival was. You can't make this up, and you definitely can't eat it. Nighttime means blackout rules. Windows covered, lights dimmed, silence enforced. Not for privacy, so bombers don't notice you exist. Every knock at the door could be a client, a soldier, or someone asking very serious questions. Sleep becomes optional. Anxiety does not. As evening approaches, you prepare the room like someone expecting a storm, because you are. Curtains are pulled tight, edges tucked carefully, so not a sliver of light escapes. A single candle is permitted, maybe, and even that feels reckless. You move through the space slowly, deliberately, trying not to bump into furniture you now know by memory. Outside, the city changes tone. Daytime noise fades into something sharper and more deliberate. Footsteps echo. A distant engine hums. Somewhere, someone whistles a tune that doesn't quite sound brave enough for the moment. You sit and wait. Waiting is most of the job now. Waiting for a knock. Waiting for sirens. Waiting for something to happen or not happen, which is often worse. Your ears strain for every sound. You learn the difference between ordinary footsteps and official ones, between a drunk knock and a knock that means trouble. When someone does arrive, you hesitate before answering. You count to 3. You listen again. Then you decide. Decision-making is constant now, and every choice carries weight. Open the door or don't. Tonight or not tonight. Risk or regret. If the sirens sound, everything stops. You grab your coat, your papers, maybe a bag if you're optimistic. You move quickly, quietly, joining others in stairwells and shelters that smell like damp concrete and shared fear. No one talks much. Breathing is loud enough. Bombs fall somewhere nearby. The ground vibrates gently, then not so gently. Dust shakes loose. You wait for the all clear, counting seconds you pretend are minutes. You think about nothing and everything at once. When it's over, when it's paused, really, you return. Sometimes the building is still there. Sometimes it isn't. You don't celebrate survival. You just continue. On quieter nights, the tension lingers anyway. You sit in near darkness, barely moving, conserving energy. Your body never fully relaxes. Even lying down feels provisional, like sleep might be interrupted at any moment by history. Clients come and go carefully, cautiously. Conversations are hushed. Laughter, when it happens, is brief and quickly swallowed. No one wants to draw attention. The war has excellent hearing. At some point, exhaustion wins. You lie down fully clothed just in case. Your mind races through worst-case scenarios with impressive creativity. You imagine tomorrow. You imagine not tomorrow. Eventually, sleep happens, thin and fragile. Just before dawn, the city exhales. Birds somehow are still singing. You peel back the curtains slightly, letting in gray light that feels like permission. You made it through another night. That's all anyone can say for sure. Society has opinions, loud ones. You are judged relentlessly, even as the same people quietly rely on your existence. You are both invisible and blamed for everything. It's a masterclass in hypocrisy, delivered with a straight face and a wagging finger. You feel it the moment you step outside. The looks, not always hostile but rarely neutral. A glance that lingers half a second too long. A neighbor who suddenly finds the pavement fascinating when you pass. You become very good at reading expressions the way sailors read weather. Stormy, judging, pretending not to see you while absolutely seeing you. By day, you are a problem, a moral concern, a topic for hushed conversations and aggressive pamphlets. By night, you are a solution, convenient, necessary, quietly tolerated. The same voices that condemn you in public somehow never mention you when their brothers, husbands, or sons come home late. You learn quickly that morality during wartime is flexible, elastic. It stretches to accommodate fear, loneliness, and long separations. It snaps back into place the moment it's no longer needed, and somehow it always snaps back on you. Officials speak to you with rehearsed seriousness. They warn you about decency, public order, the future of society. They do this while issuing permits, conducting inspections, and quietly acknowledging that the war would be messier without you. The contradiction is never addressed. Addressing it would require honesty, and honesty is not popular right now. Religious figures have opinions too, strong ones. They pray loudly for your soul while avoiding eye contact in the street. Some offer salvation, some offer shame. Very few offer food, which would honestly be more helpful. Other women look at you with a complicated mix of pity, fear, and relief. Pity because your life looks hard. Fear because your existence threatens the fragile rules they're clinging to. Relief because as long as you exist, certain expectations don't land on them. You are blamed for moral decline, disease, temptation, and occasionally military failure, which is impressive considering you do not command any troops. When something goes wrong, it's comforting to point at someone already standing outside the circle. At the same time, you are rarely spoken to directly. Discussions happen about you, not with you. Policies are written, rules are enforced, debates are held, so your voice is not required. You are an abstract problem with very real consequences. You cope by becoming smaller in public spaces, quieter. You choose routes carefully, times carefully. You learn which shops tolerate you and which don't. You learn which streets come with whispers and which come with outright hostility. And yet, there are moments, a shopkeeper who slips you a little extra because they know you're hungry. A neighbor who pretends not to notice who visits at night. Small acts of humanity that don't announce themselves but matter anyway. You don't argue your case. You don't defend your choices. Defending requires energy, and energy is rationed. Instead, you exist, persistently, calmly, inconveniently. The irony is exhausting. You are condemned for surviving in a world that offers you very few acceptable ways to do so. You are asked to disappear while continuing to be useful, to be ashamed without being visible, to carry blame without acknowledgement. By the end of the day, the judgment blends into the background noise of war, another pressure, another contradiction. You set it down where you can and pick it up again tomorrow, if required, because morality, like everything else right now, is situational. And hypocrisy, it turns out, is extremely resilient. You really can't make this up. Stability is a luxury you do not have. Cities are bombed, borders shift, laws change overnight. You learn to pack light, keep cash hidden, and never fully trust anyone who says they're here to help, especially if they actually are. You stop thinking of where you live as a home. It's a location, temporary, conditional, somewhere between currently acceptable and about to become a problem. You don't hang pictures. You don't unpack fully. Everything you own can be gathered in minutes, because minutes are often all you get. News travels faster than bombs. Rumors ripple through the city. This neighborhood is under scrutiny. That street is being cleared. Those papers are no longer valid. You listen carefully, sorting useful information from panic. Panic spreads easily. You can't afford to move every time someone whispers, but you also can't afford to stay too long. When you relocate, it's usually quiet. At dawn, or just after curfew lifts, you carry what matters: documents, money, a change of clothes. Everything else is negotiable. Sentimentality is heavy, and heavy things slow you down. Cash is hidden in multiple places because trusting one hiding spot is optimistic. Inside hems, inside shoes, inside books no one wants to read anymore. You never carry all of it at once. You've learned that lesson from watching others learn it the hard way. People offer help constantly. Some mean it, some absolutely do not. You learn to hear the difference in tone. Genuine help doesn't rush you. It doesn't ask for too much information too quickly. It doesn't insist. Those who insist are the dangerous ones. They want details, names, schedules, promises. They smile too much and explain things you didn't ask about. You nod politely and give them nothing useful. Vague answers, soft agreement. Then you disappear. Trust becomes something you ration, like food. A little here, a little there. Never enough to make you comfortable. Comfort is suspicious. You also learn not to get attached to places. Cafes change owners. Rooms are raided. Entire buildings vanish overnight. You stop being surprised when familiar landmarks are suddenly rubble. Surprise wastes time. Every move requires recalculation. Who's in charge now? What rules apply? Which permits still matter? You adjust your behavior accordingly, like a professional actor in a play with no script and very real consequences. Sometimes you move because you have to. Sometimes because staying feels too quiet, too watched. Silence can be as alarming as noise. Silence suggests attention. You make acquaintances, not friends. Friends imply permanence. Acquaintances imply shared survival without expectations. You exchange information. You trade warnings. You don't ask about the past. The past complicates things. Sleep becomes lighter. You wake at unfamiliar sounds. New rooms require mapping in the dark. Door here, window there, exit route planned before you lie down. This is not paranoia. This is practice. Despite all this movement, life continues. You still eat when you can, work when allowed, rest when exhaustion demands it. You don't stop living just because nothing stays still. At some point, you realize you are very good at this, at adapting, at reading rooms, leaving before trouble arrives. It's not a skill you wanted, but it's one you've mastered. Stability may be a luxury, but resilience is not. Resilience is required, and tomorrow, if necessary, you'll pack again. When armies occupy cities, the rules reset again. New authorities, new dangers, new expectations. Survival now depends on reading the room perfectly, knowing when to comply, when to disappear, and when to pretend you were never here at all. You know the occupation has begun before anyone officially says it. The uniforms change, the language on the street shifts, signs appear overnight, nailed up crookedly, announcing new laws with impressive confidence. Curfews tighten, faces harden. Everyone is suddenly very interested in who belongs where. Your first instinct is to become smaller, quieter. You limit your movements, watch from doorways, listen more than you speak. Information is currency now, and you collect it carefully. Who's in charge? Which office matters? Which rules are enforced? And which exist mostly for decoration? But occupying forces bring their own systems, and they are rarely subtle. New permits replace old ones. Old approvals are suddenly meaningless. You line up again, present yourself again, explain your existence again to someone who did not ask you to exist in the first place. Some occupiers are organized, others are chaotic. Both are dangerous in different ways. Organization means surveillance. Chaos means unpredictability. You learn quickly which kind you're dealing with because the strategy changes accordingly. Clients change too. Some disappear entirely. Others arrive in new uniforms, speaking unfamiliar commands, expecting compliance as a given. You adjust your tone, your posture, your answers. Everything is filtered through caution. There are things you do not say anymore, opinions you swallow immediately, names you forget on purpose. Forgetting becomes a skill, a useful one. Occupation also changes how others see you. Some resent you more, some need you more. Both reactions can get you into trouble. You navigate this by staying neutral, which is harder than it sounds when neutrality itself can look suspicious. There are moments when you are told what is acceptable now, where you may work, when you may move, who you may see. These instructions are delivered with authority and very little explanation. You accept them outwardly while calculating alternatives inwardly. You keep emergency plans ready, a place to go if things turn, a story prepared if questioned, a bag packed with essentials you never unpack fully. You sleep lightly because nights are when things tend to happen. You witness things you will not talk about. You see people disappear from buildings they have lived in for years. Shops close without warning. Streets empty faster than they should. You learn to keep your eyes forward. Sometimes you are pressured to cooperate, to provide information, to prove loyalty. You respond with careful vagueness. You are helpful without being useful. It's a delicate balance, and you walk it slowly. Not all moments are bleak. Occasionally, an occupier looks just as tired as everyone else, just as lost. You register this silently and move on. Empathy is dangerous when power is uneven. As weeks pass, occupation becomes the new normal. People adapt because people always do. Markets reopen under new rules. Conversations resume in lower voices. Life continues, reshaped but persistent. You adjust your routines again. New curfews, new risks, new calculations. You learn which streets are safer, which times are quieter, which expressions attract attention. Through it all, your goal remains simple. Make it to tomorrow without being noticed too much, without being remembered, without being written down incorrectly. Occupation changes everything, but not all at once. It happens in layers, slowly, until one day you realize the old world feels distant, and this one, however tense, is the one you know how to survive. And survival, as always, is the point. Not all resistance involves sabotage and secret codes. Sometimes it's quieter. Sharing food, warning someone, refusing information. staying human when the system would prefer you to be silent and useful. These moments don't make headlines, but they matter. You don't wake up planning to resist. Resistance sounds loud, dangerous, cinematic. What you do instead is notice things. You notice who looks scared in line. You notice when an official asks a question that doesn't need an answer. You notice when someone needs help and when helping would cost too much. You make decisions in inches, not miles. Sometimes resistance is as simple as withholding, not names, not addresses, not schedules. You learn how to answer questions without answering them. You become very good at misunderstanding, very polite, very vague. It's remarkable how far confusion can take you when delivered calmly. Other times, resistance is sharing. A cigarette split in half, a spoonful of soup passed quietly. Food is power now, and sharing it is an act of trust. You don't announce it, you don't make it symbolic, you just do it and move on. Warnings are tricky. You can't warn everyone. You shouldn't warn loudly. You choose carefully. A word at the right moment. A glance. A suggestion to leave early. You never say why. You don't need to. People understand more than they admit. There are days when resistance looks like refusal. A small one. You don't open the door. You don't provide what's requested. You accept the consequences and hope they're manageable. Refusal causes energy, and you ration that too. You also resist by staying human, by listening when someone talks about home, by treating people like people, even when the system treats them like inventory. You don't fix anything. You just don't let everything break. You never frame it as bravery. Bravery implies choice. Most of this is instinct, survival with a conscience, carefully balanced. You know when to stop. You know when pushing further would help no one. The risk is always there. Every kind act has weight. You calculate constantly. Who's watching? Who might talk? Who might misunderstand your intentions? You learn that good intentions are not a shield. There are failures, times you don't act, times you look away. You carry those too. Resistance is not a straight line. It's uneven, interrupted, and full of compromise. You don't judge yourself too harshly. Judgment is already abundant. Occasionally, resistance surprises you. Someone helps you back. Someone you didn't expect remembers your kindness. These moments are rare and quiet, but they matter more than speeches. You never write anything down. No lists, no records. Memory is safer. Forgetting is safer still. You let moments pass through you and leave as little trace as possible. At night, when things are quiet enough to think, you don't replay the risks. You replay the small successes. The person who got away. The hunger eased for an hour. The silence maintained where noise was expected. You understand that history won't notice this. It prefers big gestures and clear villains. What you're doing doesn't fit neatly into a textbook. That's fine. You're not doing it for history. You're doing it because even in a world run by permits, inspections, and fear, you still get to decide how you treat the person in front of you. That choice remains yours, however small. And tomorrow, you'll do it again, quietly, carefully, on purpose. As the war drags on, exhaustion sets in. The sirens still wail, but you barely react anymore. You adapt, because that's what people do. Even in the middle of chaos, life continues in strange and stubborn ways. At first, every alarm sent your heart racing. You grabbed your coat, your papers, your sense of urgency, and ran. Now you pause, you listen, you calculate. Is it close? Is it routine? Is this one of the many false alarms that exist purely to keep everyone mildly unwell? Sometimes you finish what you're doing before you move. That's not bravery, that's fatigues. Your body has learned the schedule of fear and decided to streamline it. Adrenaline no longer spikes the way it used to. It trickles in, does its job, and leaves you tired instead of terrified. You feel older, even if the calendar disagrees. Days blur together, not because nothing happens, but because too much does. Bombing, paperwork, work, hunger, waiting. You stop marking time by weeks or months. You mark it by events. Before that raid, after the curfew changed, the winter when everything felt heavier. You notice small routines settling in despite yourself. You always sit in the same spot. You always check the door twice. You always fold your papers the same way. These habits are not comforting exactly, but they are familiar, and familiarity is close enough. People around you change too. The sharp panic in their faces softens into something duller. Conversations return cautiously. Jokes resurface, dry and understated, like they're testing the air. Laughter feels strange at first, almost inappropriate, but it happens anyway. It always does. You catch yourself doing ordinary things and are briefly surprised, sweeping a floor, adjusting a collar, complaining about the weather, even though the weather is objectively not the problem. These moments feel almost rebellious in their normality. Sleep becomes deeper, but less refreshing. You dream often, though the dreams are disorganized, full of half-remembered rooms and unfinished conversations. You wake up tired, but waking up is still preferable to the alternative, so you accept it without complaint. The sirens still come. You still move when they do, but afterward, you return and resume whatever you were doing, as if the interruption were just another inconvenience. In a way, it is. Catastrophe has been absorbed into the schedule. You also notice a quiet shift in how you think about the future. Early on, the future was a fixed idea. After the war, now it's shorter, more flexible. Tomorrow, next week, the next meal. Planning far ahead feels indulgent. There's a strange relief in this narrowing. Big hopes are heavy. Small goals are manageable. Make it through today. Make it through tonight. That's enough. You hear people talk about when this will all end. They argue about timelines, about outcomes, about who will win. You listen politely, but you don't invest too much. Endings are unpredictable. What you understand is endurance. Endurance looks boring from the outside. It's repetitive. It's unremarkable. It doesn't come with speeches or medals. It looks like showing up again, even when you're tired of showing up. By now, you know the sound of the all clear as well as you once knew music. You wait for it. You exhale when it comes. You stand up, brush yourself off, and continue. Life doesn't pause for reflection. It keeps going, dragging you along with it. And somehow, you keep pace, because after the sirens fade, there is still work to do, food to find, doors to open carefully, and another day to survive. And survival, by now, feels almost routine. When the war finally ends, the relief is real, but so is the disappointment. Peace does not mean forgiveness, or safety, or stability. It just means the rules change again. History moves on, but you're still here, carrying memories no one asked for and no one wants to hear. You know it's over before the announcements reach you. The tension shifts. Sirens stop for good, which feels wrong at first, like a noise you didn't realize you relied on. People gather in the streets. Flags appear from nowhere. There is cheering, hugging, crying, all happening at once. You stand nearby, unsure where to place yourself in the celebration. For everyone else, this is an ending. For you, it's a transition. You've learned not to trust endings. Authorities change tone almost immediately. Wartime tolerance evaporates. Temporary permissions are suddenly permanent embarrassments. The same systems that once regulated you now look at you like a clerical error they intend to correct. Papers expire, offices close, policies harden. You hear phrases like returning to normal. Normal turns out to be selective. Some people return home, some rebuild, some reinvent themselves. You assess your options and realize most of them involve becoming someone else entirely. You consider it seriously. New name, new job, new story. Reinvention is tempting, but memory is persistent. The city looks familiar and strange at the same time. Buildings are patched together. Empty spaces mark where things used to be. People walk differently now, less hurried but more guarded. Everyone is carrying something invisible. You notice how quickly sympathy fades. During the war, survival was admirable. After the war, survival becomes suspicious. People want clean stories, heroes, victims, clear lines. Your experience does not fit neatly into any category they are prepared to honor. You are told, indirectly and sometimes directly, that it's time to disappear, to stop, to be grateful the war is over and quietly remove yourself from the conversation. Gratitude is expected. Silence is preferred. There are moments of genuine relief. Sleeping through the night without interruption. Eating without counting. Hearing laughter that isn't forced. These moments arrive cautiously, like they're checking if it's safe to stay. But there's also loss. The strange, fragile community that formed under pressure disperses. People you relied on move away or vanish into new lives. You don't exchange addresses. You don't promise to stay in touch. You've learned better. Work becomes harder to find, not easier. The demand hasn't vanished, but the tolerance has. It goes underground again, less regulated, more dangerous. You weigh your choices carefully. Risk has changed shape, not disappeared. You carry memories that don't translate well. There's no polite way to explain how you survived, so you don't. You keep those stories folded away, like old papers you can't throw out, but shouldn't display. Sometimes, late at night, you hear celebrations still echoing in your mind. Victory speeches, fireworks. You understand why people need them. You don't resent it. You just know your war didn't end on schedule. Gradually, life settles into something new. Not better, not worse, just different. You adapt again, because adapting is what you do. You find small comforts, a routine, a place that feels almost safe. History books will summarize this period neatly. Dates, outcomes, conclusions. They will not mention you, that's fine. You didn't do this for history. You did it to survive, and as the world moves forward, you move with it, quietly, steadily, carrying what you've learned and leaving the rest where it belongs. The war is over, mostly. As the night settles in and the noise of history finally softens, you can let the weight of this long day drift away. You've walked through shortages and sirens, paperwork and judgment, uniforms and uncertainty. You've survived a world that demanded everything from you while offering very little in return. And somehow, you kept going. So tonight, as you lie in a quiet room where the lights can stay on and no one is counting your papers, take a moment to notice that quiet. Notice the stillness, the safety of it. The small, modern miracles that feel boring precisely because they're reliable. The people who lived through this time didn't think of themselves as strong or historic. They were just tired, hungry, doing what needed to be done tomorrow because it had to be done today. History remembers wars as dates and outcomes, but survival was made of ordinary moments, waiting, adapting, enduring, and occasionally laughing at the absurdity of it all. And maybe that's the strangest comfort of boring history. It reminds us that people are stubborn, that even when the world is loud, unfair, and deeply inconvenient, life continues in small, defiant ways. Someone makes soup, someone shares food, someone keeps going when it would be easier to stop. So as you settle deeper into your bed with clean sheets and running water and a future that doesn't involve air raid sirens, maybe offer a quiet thank you to the people who lived through chaos so normal could exist at all. You don't need to remember every detail. You don't need to stay awake for the ending. History has done its part. You've done yours. Now let your breathing slow. Let the day fade. Tomorrow can wait. Good night.